Welcome back to our channel SQL is Easy. This is Srikanth. Today we are going to talk about the practical demonstration and practical difference between the Sargable query and the non-Sargable query. Last video we have talked about theoretically how we can understand the Sargable query and how we can say this query is not working correctly and how it is non-Sargable query. Okay, so now in this video I am going to show you practically how Sargable query we can write and how it will be beneficial for us with respect to non-Sargable query. Great. So to demonstrate it, I have one script. Basically, I am going through it. So for demonstration purpose, I am going to create one table called as the employee one. This table will have the few columns. The first column is ID, which is identity, just for identity purpose of a row, and then salary, then date of birth, then employee name. Right, so these are fields which are directly related with the employee. Great. Then there is a script which will do what, which will insert 1 lakh records, that's a 0.1 million records in this table. So on the fly I'm generating string, so you can see I'm using some character ASCII code, some value, and making some calculation, right? So this is string, right? Then after doing that one, I'm going to just insert that data. Okay, so far, so we can do here, we can select and we can run the script. Those who need it, this script basically I'm talking about, please email me in the comment box that they need the script, or just give me the email address. I will send the script to them, right? Okay, so let's run it. After running this script, basically we will need to see the data in it. So I am saying count of stars, so I can see there are 1 lakh, that's a 0.1 million rows in this, right? So let's go and see how many indexes are there on this table. So when I go through this table, I can see here there is only a one index which is a non-cluster, which is on a primary, right? So ix employee, which is on the employee name. So let's drop it first. Drop index. So on this table, great. Now again go to the one and just select Alt F1, and here you will see how many indexes are there. You can see here there is only one index which is on the primary key, right? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Now what we had talked about the Sargable query. Sargable query is a query which uses index column in its condition, and that query get benefited of that index, right? In that case we can say that query is the Sargable query. And also we have discussed about non-Sargable query. What we have discussed, we discussed that non-Sargable query is a query which uses index column, but that index not much beneficial for that query, right? Great. Now I'm going to do what, I'm going to create some index on each and every column, basically, so that I can use them to show you the difference. We can create one by one, or we can create on the fly also. So what I'm going to create first, I'm going to create one non-cluster index on what, on non-cluster index on the first column, employee name, because I'm giving you one demonstration that I will explain it. So I'm just creating index on this table. So I can write this create non-cluster index and the name of the index name, basically, right? Then on which table and the column name, right? That like that we are having few columns, and so I'm creating index on it. So you can just run it, right? So these are a few indexes which I'm going to create, and if you will carefully observe, these are all index are separate index. These are not the composite index. So our initial setup is ready. Now we are having a table, we loaded the data, we created the index on each and every column. Great. Now I'm going to go with my first practical demonstration. And the first one, that how I can write a query which perform good in a surgical query, and how does it perform very bad in a non-surgical way. So I am going to write one query in a two fashion. So my requirement is I want to know all the employee. So first of all, I think I need to show you the data in this table. So just write select star from employee 1. So here you will see there are 4 columns, the salary, employee, and all those 4 columns are having their own respective index. We just created 3 index, and by default when we set id, so primary key index are there already, right? So I want to see those employee whose name start with A. So how I can write the query? I can write a query like a function using left. The name of the column is employee name, right? And start should be 1. So just take a first character. Okay, so this query will give me the list of all the employees whose name start with A. I can write a same query in another fashion. So how I can write it? I can write like this, where employee name like, right? So this is the one query I have written two way. Basically this is one my requirement. I want to see all the employees whose first name start with A. So I can write a query like this. So it's one requirement with the two query, right? So I also want to on the statistics. Great. Making it off here so that another query won't show their own statistics. Okay, also I want to start the execution plan. I started it, right? So now let's select this two query and run it. So when we run this two query, so what will we see? We'll see that there, okay, so this is the query, and what I want to see, I just want to see the employee name, right? So again run this once. So here I can see that 3083 rows have been affected, right, in both the query. Great. Once again, if I'll go to the how many count happened, 1 count. So how many logical read was there for the first query when I use the left function there? The logical read are the basically the read which read the data from the buffer, right? So logical read are 751 for same query, and for another query where I used like operator, and their logical read are 27. So 27 page has been read, right? So you can see here there is a lot of difference, so almost 10 almost 20-30% difference there in the basically in this logical read. So first query is definitely not looking good by seeing the statistics. And when we'll move to the execution plan, we can see there the first query is taking relatively 97%, and another query is relatively taking a 3%. And if you'll carefully go here, and you'll see here the first query is doing an index scan, and another query is doing what? It is doing index seek. Okay, so cost, so here index C, index scan, and here index scan, index seek basically. Okay, and the relative percent is 97 and 3%, right? And if you all go again inside it, let's try to carefully observe it. Here the estimated row has been shown 2763, and the actual number of rows here is 3083. So this is not correct. Its statistics are not correct, right? Correct. So in next case, just go here, and if you'll come here, and if you'll see the estimated number of rows here it is approximate, right? So you can see carefully that by looking at this two query, which query is performing good, which query is giving you relatively good performance, which query is better. So by looking this execution plan, we can see that index seek will always give a good result, basically because it uses the index and which give us the benefit. If you carefully observe here, the index name and the index name for this query is ncc employee test employee name, right? And here here also the index name is the same, but here you will see seek predicates, but here you won't see the seek predicate because it has used the index scan and it has used the index seek. So by looking this two query, we can say clearly, if I want to search some string, so we need to carefully write a code so that our index should be used if we have the index on that column. So by looking at this query, I can say the second query is good. So second query is a Sargable query and our first one is a non-Sargable query, right? Great. This is the first case. Then another case, I'm going to talk about how it will work if I use any function in a where clause, right? So here my requirement is basically is to filter out all the employee whose date of birth is in 2000 or in a specific year. Basically, let's see how data we have in a table. Let's take it randomly. Let's run this command, select star from employee 1, and here I can see so date of birth 1944. Okay, so basically I want to have the all employee whose date of birth in the year 1944. Great. So how I can write the code like that? So I have a function called as a year. In the year I can simply need to pass the column name. So my column name is this one, date of birth, and which should be equal to the 1944, which should be equal to the 1944. Okay, and if I'll do this like this, so what will I get? So I can see there are 599 rows whose those are employees basically, and those are having the birthday in the year 1944. So same query I want to write in a different fashion. So how I can write? I can write the code like this. Date of birth should be greater than one date. I can say 1944 01 01, and it should be less than 45. And if I'll come here and if I'll write, so how many records I will get? First of all, let's run it. It's giving me 599 records, right? So these are the two queries I have written, and I'm going to do what? I'm going to execute, and I'm going to on the IO basically and see how this two query works and how this perform. So this both the queries have written me 599 records, right? I'm going to the message section now. Here I can see here the logical read. So logical reads are the totally read which read the data from buffer. So total read are 250 reads from buffer here in the first query, where I have used the function called as the year. In the second query I can see there is only 5 read, right? So I can see lot of difference, very big difference basically here, almost 300 to 400%. Now let's go to the execution plan and see there. If I'll go to the execution plan, I can see there are two relatively batches basically, and out of that one batch is taking 98%, another batch is taking 2%. So the first one, which is taking 98%, and if I'll go through and dig into it, I can see here the index which is used here, that index is a NCI employee test on date of birth. Let me go to the second query and see here the same index has been used. But interestingly, if I'll carefully observe here, if I observe carefully, I can see here the index scan. This is index scan, right, on the first one, and here index seek. So in the first query, scan is happened, and the seek and the second query, seek has happened. So you know guys, scan means what? Scan means scanning the entire table, and seek means scanning some specific data from the table, last table, right? So by looking at this two query, I can see both the queries are giving me the same result, but performance wise, which one is performing good? The first one, which is using index scan, which is not using good, so that is a non-sargable query. And the query which is using the index and which give me a good benefit, when which is working with the index seek, right? So that query is good. So because it is completing in a 2% and it's taking 98%, so second query is good, right? So whenever we will be working with the kind of data, we always need to use this kind of function, so that it will be very helpful and will give a good performance, right? Hope you understood this one. Another third case I'm going to talk. Third case is performing the calculation on an index column. So let's say I want to find out those employee whose salary equal to some number. Let's see the data. If I go here and see the data, I can see salary something like this. So I want to perform some operation, like let's take this by 2. If I'll do it, so what will I get? 612. So I want to find out all the employees whose salary is half of one number. So how I can write the code? I can write the code like this, where the salary employee divided by 2 is equal to what? Is equal to this number. So when this condition will meet, so I need to have the record. So I can write a code like this also. Another way I can write the same query is this one. By 2. So logically both the query will give me the good same result, right? And see, now we'll going to on the statistics and execution plan and see which query is giving me good result and how it is performing. Let's execute it. Both the we can see here both the query giving me the same result. So let's go to the message section. I can see here logical read are 195 and the logical read are 2. That's good, but you know, if you'll carefully observe, it's a lot of big difference basically. Now let's move to the execution plan. If I move to the execution plan, I can see there the first query is taking 99% relatively, and this another query is taking a 1%. So you just need to think about how you have written query and why. So if you'll carefully observe that there is an index on a salary column, right? So we have created both the same index basically used in both query, but how my performance is getting down and how it is getting increased. The difference is just because of what? Just because that the salary is on index column, but you are performing the calculation on index column, so that index wouldn't be used. In the another query, you have just used the index column, but you have performed the calculation outside of the index column. So this is really helpful tips, right? So you can see here the second query is taking 1%, first query is taking 99%. So which query is good and which query is bad? The first one is definitely bad, another one is a good one. So this is one of the performance wise very good, right? Okay, so there is a one more case I am going to talk, but I think it will be very lengthy one, right? So the case is that if we are using a isnal function in a where clause, it will also give us the wrong result, right? So for example, I am writing one case here. So try to write a code in a such a way that you should get a benefit of index if you are using a function in a condition. So I want to write a code in a such a way that I want to have all the employee right whose name equal to A. If the employee name is not equal to the A, default it should give me the A. So how I can write like that? So I can use some function like is null, employee name is a null, then something A, and this should match with the A. So what does it mean? It means that if any employee whose name is blank, right, so it should also match, and any employee whose name is A, it should also match. So this query will give me the result. Here I need to use the correct column name. So when I execute this query, what will I get? So employee name. Let's try to run it and see. So basically what I'm going to talk about, the isNull function. So if I are using isNull function, so use it properly. So this is my one code, the one way I can write the code. Another way I can write the same query is I need those employee whose name is A and employee name is null. So even I execute both the queries, what will I get? I will get the same result, right? So so when I execute this two query, what will I get? I will get the data 102, 51, 51. So same record. So I have written the same requirement in a two way, right? Great. So let's make statistic on off. And run it. So when you go to the message section, you can see there are 751 logical read. So it means 751 pages has been read. Next is only 6 read for the another query, the second query. Execution plan, if you see carefully, the 99% first query, index same, right? So moral of the story is you need to write a code in such a way that the index should be used, because you can see here in both the query index has been used, but that index is not beneficial. So our intention is to write a code in such a way that our column will use the index, but that index should be beneficial. Lot of people think that creating an index will give me the good performance, but it is not that the case. You need to write a query properly so that we'll get a good performance, good one, right? Hope you like and enjoyed our video regarding the demonstration of Sargable and non-Sargable query. If you like our video, please do not forget to subscribe us so that other people can also get to know about this channel. Also, if you guys need this script, please email me shrikantkhode@gmail.com, or you can comment me below in section so that I can send the script to you guys. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you.